Okay, so this is an experiment, and I thought I would let you join in here and see the beginning processes of this. So one of the things that I don't like about many of my books is that I can't do a watercolor base. And generally I would think I would just kind of paint in objects like leaves, flowers, but for this one I want a general glow over the whole thing. So I'm actually just kind of painting in layer by layer, and I'll do a light layer first and let it be very watery. And then I'll go in with the more detailed approach and just try to get some overall color in there. You have paper behind it, and I have washi tape next to it. Let's just kind of random, kind of not random. Not worried about making it to every edge. I like the watercolory look to the edges. A tiny bit of green. I am careful to not get too, I want to keep it light in the middle. Just for focus on these three little mice right here in the center. And snails. Let's see, a little bit purple. My moonstone. Gets very gray or brown very easily, but with purple undertones. If it gets too many streaks from my brush, I just add some water. Well, since I can use water, let's really use water. All right, definitely experiment. I can't believe I'm doing this in my Ibusa book, but oh, that's too much. Okay, we may have to pour a little bit of that off or absorb just a smidge. Because it'll take too long to dry. Take too long to dry. Okay, get a little bit of that off. If you did get too dark, you can dab a bit. And since it's still very wet, it'll recover okay. But that got my colors to mix really good. And I actually don't mind the texture here because of what it is. Yeah. Okay, some of that darkness may be that it's finally sinking through, but looks good. I did seal it with a golden satin glazing liquid, but it makes a really nice texture on the paper where you feel the tooth almost like a tiny sandpaper. So I'm thinking this might be good for some colored pencil on pages that are too slick. So I will definitely be experimenting more with this, but let's see how this dries, and I'll either go straight in with pencil or I'll do just a little bit more watercolor with a little bit more detail with a smaller brush. All right, so see how that goes. Looking pretty good. Okay. All right, so we're back now with a completely dry page. And as you can see, not too wrinkled, not too bad. This isn't the kind of wrinkles that I couldn't straighten out. Like you could just kind of roll this slightly and straighten it out pretty well. So this is certainly flat enough to work on without getting big puddles. So here are my options now. So I've got this beautiful background that you will notice that it dries lighter. Most watercolors dry lighter, and it's a lovely watery watercolor background. So I can leave it like this, and in some places it does help me with basing items. Like this is a really good base color for my little mouse and some of the mushrooms. Now I have an option here. I can either continue with more specific basing with my same colors and actually fill in a little bit of specific items, or I can go ahead in with marker, or I could go ahead in with my colored pencils. So right now, the time-saving effect of doing the wash makes it so that I would not want to go in with pencil on my background any more than I had to. And actually, I don't want to touch the background until I see where I might need more shadows after all of this in the foreground is done. So I'm only going to concentrate on all of these objects in the foreground. And I wanted to do a test and show you a few things to see what works on this. So just to remind you, this is the Kingdom of Curious Creatures Fairytale Adventure book from Kanoku Igusa. And this paper generally is decent, but I would say I would be afraid of bleed through with watercolor because this was really, really wet. This is puddly and wet, and as you can see, there's no shadowing or anything. So the glazing liquid that I used, the golden satin glazing liquid, actually dried really, really well and worked really, really well. It does add a sandpapery feel, which I'm curious at how my pencils are going to act on that. I'm imagining it giving a little bit more tooth to some very slick paper. Generally, this paper is really, really slick in her books, and I do struggle with layers because my Prismacolors get really mushy and blendy and like kind of like clump up a little bit, and so I can't do a lot of layers. So I actually go in with only a couple layers, and I have to get to the darks quickly without too many layers. I can't layer everywhere and build up. I have to leave space for my darkest darks so that I have enough tooth of the paper and don't run out of layers before I get as dark as I want to get. So one thing that would keep this as a fast solution is to keep working on other things in between. So like, it may seem like it takes a long time because you have to wait for this to dry, but I only spent a couple minutes on it, and I can move on to something else or go cook dinner or come back the next day. And I tend to have a lot of pictures going at the same time, so I just set this aside to dry and work on something else. So it's very little actual time spent on this picture so far. So I didn't mask anything off. I just put paper under it, and I did a thin layer of satin glazing liquid, set it aside to dry, and came back. And I am actually really surprised with that stuff that this still just feels like paper. This is not anything like when you put like matte medium or something like that on it, because this is like just part of the paper now. It's not like there's a heavy layer of something on it. So I am like thoroughly bewildered by this product. So I'm going to be trying out this on lots of books. I'm so afraid to use watercolor in some of my Japanese books, but if I can do that, then I can do watercolor in them. So I'm going to paint one or two things with watercolor that are kind of out of my way so that I can let it dry while I continue with other things, just to show you what I mean. And then I'm going to test a couple markers. And alcohol markers is something I can never use in any of these books because they're all double-sided. And I'm not going to ruin a page in one of these books. So now that I have the satin glazing liquid, I'm wondering if it's now okay to use a marker. Because if I can do a wash like this and set it aside and let it dry, and then do marker as a continuing to base these items and get the colors on, that would make it really fast. So I'm going to try that with a color that if it bled through, looking on the other side, it would still blend in and be able to like be salvaged. So all of this is greenery, a few flowers. So I think even if it bled through like on this corner, that I would still be able to salvage that. So I'm going to try, and I'm actually not going to use real dark at first. I'm going to try some lighter colors. This is neutral gray number 2. This one is Copic, but I will say any alcohol marker is going to have the same effect. I know water-based markers are good because they're pretty good even without the glazing liquid. So I do want to try this. This is just a gray, so I could use a gray for shadowing. One tip would be to do all of your shading on the whole thing and then come in with a little color. But I just want to test and see if it goes through. So, oh, you can't even see that on here. So maybe if I shadow my little flowers a little bit, or the fern. I may have to go darker just so you can see it. And I'm going to color this in pretty good. This is a juicy enough marker. It's not dry. So if this doesn't go through, oh, it's not. Eee! Okay, so I'm going to try. Oh, where'd I lose my lid? Did I drop a lid on you, Gracie? Oh, here it is. All right, let me try purple. See if there's a flower there, right there. Yeah, some of these flowers. I really am using color, I promise. That's too light. Okay, this one is Blick. Oh! Oh my goodness. Let's see. I don't necessarily want that bright. That's a little better. Okay, this one is Copic Sketch. It is kind of sitting on top, which is fine. Actually, it's helping it not bleed into the paper. Oh, this may be a new way of working for me. It would be a pain, but when I know what pages I'm doing, I can just, you know, paint them all quickly in one session, have them drying all around the room. Oh my goodness. Oh, I better check. Ooh, let me finish this flower. I may be adding flowers in on the other side. It's not going through. Oh my gosh. So if I use Satin Glazing Liquid, I can do watercolor washes with plenty of water. I just have to be careful about the binding. And I can do markers. I can do alcohol markers on top. Oh, this is a game changer, guys. This may be changing my title of what I was going to do. Wow. Yeah, I don't even need to show you more watercolor on this. It's obvious I can do watercolor because that didn't go through. And now the alcohol markers are not going through. I am surprised. Okay, I'm going to try this darker green. Now, if this doesn't go through, that'll be insane. I'm even going to do it on this damp part that's just barely dry. And this is a Artist Loft. Wow. And because I'm not starting with a white as my background, those paler shades were not really showing up. This is not bleeding and spreading. This is so much nicer. Oh my gosh. Now this might wear down the tips, but I am not above replacing those. That's easy fix. I've had to do very little of that over the years anyway. Oh my gosh, I'm going to keep going with my green. Wow. Okay, guys, so I'm going to continue to color in. Oh, I better check it first. It's not going through. I'm floored. I am so ecstatic. This is like gonna make things so much faster. Oh my gosh, what if I did this on, like, I don't have an Erie book, but what if I did this on an Erie book? Oh, it would go so much faster. So my go-to is generally just straight for a double-sided page that I cannot base with marker or watercolor, especially if it's Amazon paper, but any page really that I don't want to have bleed through from an alcohol marker. I just do straight pencil, and straight pencil only. It takes so much longer, and it's also really hard on my hand. I've had a couple tendon issues with my hand. I've had surgery on this wrist, so at one point there was several months before I had surgery, and then they tried to splint it, and then they realized it wasn't helping, and then I had to have surgery, so then I had to go through the splint and PT. So it was all of like 10-12 months total that I really couldn't use my right hand much. I basically became left-handed. So even though I could sort of do some things with my left hand, I can like color in basic things with my left hand. So I don't want to overdo it, and I have had projects where it was a lot of pencil in many layers on a big sheet of watercolor paper, and I can't do that. It hurts my hand too much. I have to stop coloring for a few days to a week. Okay, so this is multiple layers of alcohol marker of a very dark color. I feel like I'm even getting a little bit more time. Although the test of that will be a bigger area than this. Definitely, because I use these just, I mean, I shade and stuff with the marker. So, and I can still do pencil touch-ups. So I'm not concerned about it being super flat. I like it to look like there's an artist's hand in it anyway. Yeah, this is multiple layers. Did not go through at all. It's right there. Wow. Okay. So I guess now I'm gonna need more markers. So I am currently using an old marker. Just got it, at least I got it on the right place. Oh, I wonder if that wipes off. Now that I have that glazing liquid, I gotta check that. I don't have a full set of anything. I have, what I'm using now is the random markers that I have upstairs in my studio. I have a small, like I have a 48 set. It's two 24 sets together. That's like an architectural set and a fashion set of Ohuhu markers. And then I bought one of the two Ohuhu sets of pastels. Because I had so many darks and midtones, I needed the pastels, especially for basing. So I have, yeah, see, this is showing a few streaks. It is behaving a little differently, but it's not bleeding. So I still might want to touch that up. Yeah, so that's staying wet longer for sure. But that's okay. Let me try and see if it will come off that little spot where I colored over, because that would be even more amazing. So I'm gonna get like a stiff little paintbrush. Actually, I should get alcohol, but yeah, it's not coming off. Yeah. Okay, that's okay though. At least I got it somewhere that has green. I wonder if the blender would get it off. That's probably a better... Is this a blender? No, that's gray. There's a blender. Okay. I wonder how that works in here. Like if I wanted to. That's pretty cool. It's pushing that around. Okay, wow. All right, I'm gonna color that little other bit of the leaf that I missed. Having it not bleed into things is key for me because I always forget to stop short of the line. Wow, okay, so let's do some more ferns. And then I'm gonna speed things up, cut a few boring parts out, and I'll come back if I have anything momentous to report, but otherwise I will speed this up and I'll show you the final product. I do plan to base some of these things with marker, so I probably have to go get my oh-hoo-hoos from downstairs. And then I also want to see if I want to do any touch-ups or highlights with either a colored pencil, probably Prisma, but a colored pencil and or a gel pen. And this is the ideal thing that I would want to try the Derwent Artist pencils on if I had them. I don't have them. So for now, I'm going to keep going with this. And I will tell you what my inspiration is, just because I did one that I really liked. So I have Rayhan Udaci's Wild Own Nature book. And I really liked this image that I did. Now this is completely based with alcohol markers. For the mushrooms, and then colored pencil on top and colored pencil for the background. I do like the texture in here. I will say this texture is where it's not burnished, and then places that are really smooth, like the stems of these mushrooms, is where it's burnished. But I do like the texture. I like to be able to tell that an artist did something. So that was a style preference, a choice. Same thing with the grass. I like the texture that makes that look like grass. So I do love this color scheme, and I love the feel of this. So that's kind of what I'm doing in this one, although this is a much more simplified drawing. This is more detailed. But we'll see how the finals look together. Okay, I'm going to keep going, and I will probably speed up some of this. So I'm trying something new with a mic to hopefully get some better audio. So hopefully this works or it'll take many takes. So we're back. I have off camera gone and colored in all of the basing with additional color to like actually color it in with marker. So this is the this is the alcohol marker on top of my crazy watercolor base. So all of this is with alcohol marker. So surprisingly, I was able to get into some tiny, tiny spaces that I normally can't do with marker because I am terrible about getting too close to the line and having a little bit of bleed through, like over, not bleed through, over the line a little bit. So I've not got a ton of experience with alcohol markers, and I'm just getting used to stopping just short of the line and not going over. So I'm used to being able to erase or like double tap, like so. The only bleed through, of course, I'm super proud that none of the heavy watercolor bled through. The only thing you can see right there, that little spot of green, and thankfully it's a pale green, medium to pale green on a grassy area. So I'm not at all worried, but I think right in here I scrubbed a little bit. You can see that dark spot on the fiddle fern. Is that what it's called? I'm not sure. Um, but anyway, on this little fern frond that's dark right there, that that might be because I missed a tiny spot when I did my layer of satin glazing liquid, or it could be that I scrubbed a bit too much with the tip of the pen and the felt tip on the pen rubbed off the glazing liquid in that spot. So either way, same solution. So I think I need to do a second coat of the glazing liquid when I prep this page. So I just did a single good solid layer. Um, but I think I'll start doing a second layer, at least focusing on where I'm coloring. Maybe not all the way to the edges for all the layers, but the first layer was all the way to the edges. So a second layer would probably help prevent that from happening, whichever happened. Could be both, combination of both. So that is the only bleed through with alcohol markers in this Kanoko Gusa book. So I'm pretty happy with that. The other thing is after basing with alcohol marker, my page usually isn't this far along. So alcohol markers are quick. The watercolor base was really quick. So now the only thing left is to come in where I want to do some tiny details, give some fur and form to my mice, um, give some highlights and form to some of the things that look a little flat. These purple flowers are just too bright and look a little flat. So things need highlights. I haven't put any white or anything on these flowers yet. All I did is darken a shadow around them to help them pop. And just because of contrast, they look lighter. I haven't colored them with anything yet. So I need to just go in with my pencils. Um, I have a selection of pencils I've pulled. I could pull more, but just to let you know what I'm going to be using, I pulled kind of a wide variety of French gray, cool gray, warm gray. This one's actually sandbar brown. That's in the wrong place. But I use it typically for a shadow color that's more natural. I use the French gray a lot. And this color palette particularly has a lot of those like mushroomy purpley grays in it. So I will use the French gray probably quite a bit. Um, Not so many purple and blue shadows in this one. And then, so that's all the grays. And then I pulled a wide selection of greens to help those blend in. Cream, peach, dark peach, salmon color, orange, brown, and then a few purples to tone these down. So I'm going to start coloring with those and then the page will be done. So I'll show you when it is completely finished. So all in all, it's taking very little time of actual time coloring to do a Kanoku Igusa page, which her pages usually take me a while. Okay.
let me get going with my coloring.
So I've continued with my Prismacolor pencil, and it's like 99% done. I may come back after I wait a bit, take a second look at it with fresh eyes. This is the one that was kind of my inspiration for this. The 2 pages before they were colored really reminded me of each other quite a bit. This one is completely fully Prismacolor with nothing else basing it. This one is layers, but much faster. So my final thoughts on this is that this is a much faster method of working, but you have to be okay with your materials working a little differently. So once you layer this, it does give added tooth to the paper. It doesn't really change like the thickness of the paper or anything, and it's not slick or anything. It feels like a like super fine grit sandpaper. And that's great for colored pencils, but it could possibly also wear down your pencils. But I will say, I only needed 1 or 2 layers in spots. I did not need to build up and blend color as much as I normally need to do. So I might go back in with a little bit of a white gel pen or something for highlights. I might fill in some of these little like random spaces that aren't anything, like especially where there's a branch or a leaf that doesn't continue behind things. I think Kanoko Gusa does that quite a bit. So, but I'm quite happy with it. I love the background. I think the contrast between the pencil and marker with that watercolory background is really nice. So I don't want to touch that background any more than I have to, especially like right up here. If I'd planned it better, I wouldn't have put a highlight like right in here. I'm not happy with that. I'd rather it be right here. So I could lighten that a bit. I might not, but I'm really happy with this picture. I think it's really cute. I love doing little animals. Not my best mice ever, but they're still very cute. And I hope this helps some of you not be afraid to put the materials you love in some of these Japanese books, because I know that I've not colored in them much, especially the smaller ones, because I don't want to ruin them with the watercolor or the marker. Now the marker does move around a bit. It takes a little longer to dry. So alcohol markers actually kind of look a little bit more and behave kind of more like a water-based marker, but you can use your alcohol markers. So there is that. So it went much faster than this one. I think this took like 3 times as long, and it's smaller. So just thought I'd share, and I hope that maybe that can help somebody out there in figuring out what materials to use on their page. See you in the next one. Hope to see you soon. My next videos will have comparison with Caran d'Ache Supercolor to Inktense and what's the other one? Albrecht. So I'm still on the hunt for the perfect watercolor pencil. Oh, and museum aquarels. So I'll be comparing those and coloring them in a Japanese book. So hopefully you can stick around and subscribe and be around for that one.
and I will chat with you real soon. Happy coloring!